Hi guys, this is Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner. For today's project, I'm sharing how I created these skull and crossbones cards. So I have been so busy getting some videos ready for this weekend that when I was finally done with those, I grabbed my bin of Halloween die cuts, embellishments, etc. and decided to knock out some cards because I need to send some out this year. But after finishing this first one, I just had to record making another one. I even thought I'd forgo the voiceover and just talk while crafting. You know, I don't normally do that. But it turns out that I didn't have the settings on OBS done right, so it didn't record the audio. Hence, the new voiceover. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating this super cute skull and crossbones card. I had already pre-cut basically everything. The skull and crossbones are from a Sizzix die that I've had for over a year, and I had actually cut out a ton of these different sets out of white cardstock and white foam last year, but never used them. So they've been sitting in my craft bin all that time. These are the card panels that I've already gotten ready. This is some pattern paper from the Ghost Stories paper pack that I've used in a couple of videos during this Halloween series. The pages have this great wood plank pattern, and the other side is foiled with ghosts. I'm going to be using both sides of the panel. Since the wood plank side will give better contrast with my bones, I'm using that as the main panel and the foil piece as the mat. The mats are cut to about 5 1/4 by 4, and the main panels are cut to 5 by 3 3/4. I've already gotten them adhered with art glitter glue. Foil papers are sometimes a bit finicky, so I figured the liquid adhesive might hold them better than a tape runner. I had also cut out a sheet of cut-aparts for the sentiments. I love this one that says "Bad to the Bone." It'll go so perfectly with Skelly. But it is a little too large to fit nicely in the space that the skull will leave on the panels, so I'll trim it down a bit. It started as 3 by 3 inches, and I'm trimming it to 2 1/2 by 2 1/2. I'll trim a 1/4 inch off each side, and the sentiment will be perfectly in the center. Now that it's trimmed down, I'm going to use my corner chomper and round all of the edges, and then I'm going to take my Tim Holtz paper distressor and distress all of the edges on that paper. This is such a cool look. I haven't really used this thing that much. It's been sitting in my drawer for a very long time, and I just pulled it out recently, probably because I just found it. But it gives such a lot of texture to the cards. I really love that. Next, I'm just taking out my black Soot distress ink and a mini blending brush and just adding some black ink all along that distressed edge. Then I'm laying it down on my mat and just gently inking in slightly along those edges to give it more of a vignette distressed look. And then I'm going to take a microfiber cloth and just buff some of that off of the foil so those foiled bones that are on the card are visible again. Next, I'm going to round the corners on my main panel as well. Now, I'm using the 1/4 inch side on my corner chomper, where on the sentiment I use the 1/2 inch side. This is going to give it just a tiny curve there, but it makes it easier for me to do the distressing on that curved edge, and I think it winds up looking really, really cool when I get done. And just like I did on the Bad to the Bone sentiment, I'm going to go ahead and just ink up the edges on the whole panel as well. Go ahead and add a lot of ink into all of that distressed paper where I ripped that up with the distressing tool. And then I'm going to just bring in a little bit more color from the edges by laying it down on my craft mat and just blending in slightly. So now I can start assembling the card. I'm going to adhere the card panel down onto a A2 size card base that I made from some 110 pound cardstock from Michaels. I'm going to just use my dot liner adhesive to hold that down. Okay, I just have to laugh at myself here. Although this oven mat that I'm using, this cooking mat, the silicone mat that I'm using for blending, it's great for blending on, don't get me wrong, but it is so difficult to get your cardstock to move. I had so much trouble just getting the card base to move so that I could position my panel on top. I just think that is just too hilarious. Next, I'm going to go ahead and start adding the little pieces onto the card. Now for the skull, last year when I did it, I just did the skull in white cardstock on some foam and then did a little bit of ink blending to give it a little bit of dimension. But I pulled out my Crackle paste today. This is texture paste opaque Crackle from Ranger, and I think I've tried it once or twice and not really played with it. So what I wound up doing today is just putting some of this on all of the skulls. Now, a lot of this was done after the video, but I did go ahead and add it to a couple of them. This one, it's had time to dry. It was a thin layer, so there's a little bit of crackle, so you can't really see it that well, but now I know if you layer it on thicker, it's going to crackle a lot more and you'll be able to see it more. So what I'm doing to bring out some of that crackle is I'm just adding some more of the ink on there. This is Antique Linen Distress Ink, so I'm just adding some of that brownish, light brown color over all of those places in white, because this does dry white. That's something else I tested out. Anyway, that's going to give it a bit more, I guess, character to the skull. That's going to be kind of cool. I'm going to go ahead and post, once I'm done with the rest of the cards, I'll post all of the pictures at the end of this video so you can see how it turned out with the different types of, different levels of crackle that I put on there and some different things that I tried out after I made this one. Like I've done a little bit of extra layering with some foam underneath, and there's a lot that you can do with this skull, but sometimes you just have to sit down and play. Now I'm just deciding where exactly I want each of the pieces to go on this card. I mean, that skull and crossbones are really, really, really big, so it does take up a lot of the real estate on the card. So first I'm going to go ahead and put down the bones and have them kind of crossed down at the bottom. I'm going to add that sentiment up in the upper right hand corner, just kind of skewed slightly. And then I'll adhere that skull down using some art glitter glue. It's going to overlap the sentiment just a touch, but not enough so that you're not able to see it. I'm also tapping off some of the glue onto my hands so that it doesn't, ooze out the sides. And then I'm going to add a stamp block just to try to hold it down enough to give it time to dry. I don't know about you, but sometimes I forget how I had something set up, so I had to look at my original card to see what I wanted to do with it. I had actually used an extra little piece of foam to prop up the second bone because it wasn't going to lay flat on the card. It's going to be kind of hovering a bit over the first bone that's down there. So I'm going ahead, and instead of doing it after the fact, I went ahead and put that little extra piece of foam down on its own. Now I've got this little tin full of foam scraps that I've used from other projects, and so I pulled out one of those and just cut it in half, and it turns out that this one is actually a little bit thicker than what I needed, but it's gonna work out fine in the end anyway. So I'm just adhering that last bone down with that art glitter glue just like I did the first. And because my art glitter glue does need a little bit of time to dry, I'm using my reverse tweezers and that stamp block again. Now I'm pulling out this little dish of confetti. It's basically just some Halloween confetti that I picked up at the Dollar Tree last year, and I'm going to add some little pieces to my card just as accents. Starting off with this tiny little spider web, just adding some art glitter glue to the back and then tapping off the excess so that it doesn't smush everywhere, and laying that down. Oh, that looks so nice. Now I'm going to add a little spider there too. One of the nice things with this is that I'm adding also a couple of little pops of color in different areas because my card is all white and black and gray. So one of these spiders is purple. I don't know if you can see it, but that one is purple. The other one is black. And then I'm going to scatter some little red confetti over the card in different places, and that's going to look kind of cool too. I think that the idea behind those pieces when they made this confetti was that it was supposed to look like little droplets of blood. No, I do not have this thing about blood. I just think blood is part of Halloween, so that's one reason why I like it on my cards. Not real blood. I don't want to cut myself, but having little pieces that look like they might be blood. So I'm just adding those little red flat sequins, I guess, to different spots, to forming some visual triangles there. I have one in his, couple of them in his little eye, and that is going to finish up this card. I hope that you are inspired to get going on your Halloween crafting, and I would love to see what you create. So come join my Facebook group, Crafting with Debbie, and show us your creations. I've left a link in the description box down below. Oh, and if you make anything using ideas from one of my Halloween videos, please post a picture and tag me at hashtag Debbie J's Crafting Corner and at hashtag DJCC Halloween 2020. You can also see all of my Halloween videos for 2020 by clicking on the hashtag DJCC Halloween 2020 down in the video title. Here are some other videos that you may be interested in. Thank you so much for dropping by, and remember, if I can make it, you can too.